Hi everyone! Here's how I do my own prenatal care at home, and I wanted to share it with you all so that you could have a better understanding of how to do it yourself. I'm not advocating for not going to the OB, not seeing a midwife, but I just think that it's good to have a broader picture, like a full picture of your health, and just know how you're doing during your pregnancy, and it's honestly pretty simple. I have my box of all of the things that I use for my prenatal care. You can get all of these things on Amazon. I will link them down below. The first thing that I developed is a chart for each prenatal check. You do all of the checks in just one chart, and that way you can keep track of everything. So I put my name, the baby's due date, my last menstrual period, and then when I discovered that I was pregnant, just for memory's sake. Remember that your baby's due date is a guess, it's an estimate. On each column, I have the date, the week of pregnancy that I'm in, my weight, my blood pressure, and then when it comes to urine, I have protein, ketones, pH, leukocytes, nitrite, gravity. I'll get into that with the urine testing. And then I have my fundal height, my glucose, baby's heart, baby's position, and then any extra observations, like when did baby start kicking, or when did I start getting that, linea negra, or the black line, the hormonal black line. When did I get my first Braxton Hicks? Like things like that are so special to write down because you can bring them to the office, right? You can share that with the OB or with the midwife, but you can also keep it for yourself. And if you decide to do a baby book, then this can go in the baby book. And when the baby's bigger, they're like, oh, that's when I kicked or something. So very sweet, very special, and also very informative. You write these things down to remember. Your OB or midwife is going to have these records of you every visit, but this is for yourself so that you know exactly what's going on. So the first thing that I do is I have set a day of the week that is like my doctor's appointment with myself. So after that, I weigh myself. Ideal weight range is about 5 pounds that first trimester, and then 1 pound per week every week during your second and third trimester. There's a lot of weight gain that will happen in terms of the baby, the placenta, the blood volume, all of those things. And sometimes you'll notice that 1 week you gained 3 pounds, and then the next week you're down 2 pounds. So it's very it's not linear. It's very, up and down in terms of the weight. But what you don't want to be seeing is 1 week you gained 10 pounds or you've gained 10 pounds in very short time. And how do you do that? Well, eating lots of protein. HCL has really helped me with my protein intake in that first trimester. Also other things that you want to do, walk every day or exercise, stretch. Basically just live an active and healthy lifestyle, and you won't have to worry about weird or dramatic weight gain. If you're eating out all the time, you will gain more weight. So again, I'm not saying that you're not going to gain weight, quite the opposite. I've noticed I've already gained 20 pounds towards the end of my second trimester, which is normal. The next thing that I measure is my blood pressure. And actually, when we got this, my husband was more excited about this than I was because he loves little gadgets and stuff. But
every day for 2 months.
he was taking his blood pressure every day for 2 months. I have only stuck to once a week. But this is an Omron blood pressure machine, and you can connect this to their app. And it's really cool because it syncs and it records everything on your phone. So if you forget what your blood pressure was, even though it stays on the screen for quite a bit where you can write it down or take a picture of it, it's really good because you have the history logged on your phone. And if you're into Apple Health and keeping everything synced, it integrates with Apple Health. I like that it comes in a little case, so when we've traveled, we've taken it with us. Next thing is urine strips for analysis. I think it's very important because you want to know if you're not eating enough or if you're eating too much blood sugar. If you're eating too much sugar or things like that, that might increase your risk of preeclampsia and swelling. A really good book to read is the Nourishing Traditions book of baby and childcare, and it explains, I did a reel on this on my Instagram, you can check it out, but it explains how certain conditions like preeclampsia or swelling can actually be prevented with proper nutrition. This container basically comes with strips. You pee in a cup, and then you take the strip and you dip it in there, and then you take it out and you let it sit for a little bit. And it is going to have some colors that you're going to want to compare with the color of your strip. You don't want to have ketones in your urine. If you do, that means that you probably haven't been eating enough. And if you have protein in your urine, you also want to be mindful of that. The next thing is glucose. I actually haven't done this yet because I'm scared to prick my finger, but we'll do it at some point. So basically you prick your finger and you watch for your glucose on fasting and then after a meal and things like that. And you write out a food log, usually for about 2 weeks. This is a great substitute to the gestational diabetes glucola disgusting drink that I am super against, just because your body's not used to all of that sugar, so intensely. But if your provider is fine with it, which they should be, but sometimes they're not, you can do a glucose monitor. Again, this is not medical advice. Consult with your OB/midwife. When you look at places like England or the UK, gestational diabetes testing is only done on women that are high risk. So if you're over the age of 35, or if you have diabetes in your family, or you are diabetic, or if your BMI is higher, like things like that consider you high risk, and that is when they test you for gestational diabetes. In the US, it's like required. And I say required because you have the right to decline anything that you want. The next thing is a measuring tape to measure your fundal height. You're gonna measure from the end of your pubic bone, or the start of your pubic bone, to your uterus. This is accurate starting at 20 weeks, just because before that you might get like some weird measurements. You can find videos, or you can ask your OB or midwife how to do it, and then you can do it at home. So it's just a regular measuring tape. And usually by the time that you're 20 weeks, you are 1 or 2 inches similar. So let's say you're 22 weeks, your fundal height is gonna be 22 to 24 inches. The next thing is a fetoscope, or a fetal stethoscope, with a little horn. This is very common for midwives, and it has been sort of substituted by the Doppler, which some people are not comfortable with because it is still a form of ultrasound. So this is a manual way to hear your baby's heartbeat. So usually what happens is you put these, ear pieces on facing forward. You put them on your ears. You don't want it to be facing you because then it won't work. And then this little horn goes on your tummy, and this piece right here is usually for the midwife's head. So they put their head here, and then they're hearing your baby's heartbeat. This is difficult to do, I will say. And you don't really get accurate results until after about 24 weeks. So if you are comfortable with knowing that your baby's there, trusting that your baby's there, but not hearing their heartbeat, then this is fine. I've been able to hear baby's heartbeat, but only for a second. So it still takes some practice. The baby's heartbeat is gonna sound different to yours. Yours is more steady, like doom, 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 like that. And then baby's is gonna be sort of like a horse galloping, like that. Kudos to midwives that still use this. And the fact that many doctors, unfortunately, aren't trained in this because we don't use it anymore, I think is unfortunate. I think we should still train doctors to use this. And then finally, baby's position. You can learn how to touch your belly so that you know, or you could just ask your OB or your midwife what baby's position is, and then you just write that on the chart. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have other recommendations on like what things you have done at home, then leave them in the comments below.